And welcome back to our virtual career day series. My name is Josh Walker. I'm an architect coming to you live from, again, my home, because like you, we're all learning and working from home these days. At least most of us around the world. If this is your first time joining us, this is our chance at HKS to introduce you to what we do and the many kinds of professionals it takes to make it happen. We design everything from stadiums to skyscrapers, hotels to hospitals. We have over 1,000 people from all industries. Architects, accountants, interior designers, engineers, human resources, researchers, and everything in between. There's a place and a role for everybody. So far we've talked with, and get ready for the list, Sustainability Engineer Mike Brown, Director of Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Giselle Santos Rivera, Architect Adeze Kade, Interior Designer Delia Schloitz, Architectural Photographer Daryl Shields, Design Director Dan Flower, Writer Julie Wellick, Researcher Casey Lindberg, and last week we had a special Spanish language interview hosted by Giselle Santos Rivera with the Architect and Office Director Salvador Rivas. You can find all of these episodes on our Instagram TV or our YouTube feed. I highly recommend you go back and catch up on our library if you haven't seen them already. Now this week, I'm going to start with a brief description of the architecture industry because there's something I think we need to understand before we get into this. When everybody thinks of architects, I think there's a fairly common misconception that we think of architects as builders. It's a popular mistake made in pop culture where you'll see an architect walk onto a job site and start telling people what to do. In reality, it doesn't really work like that. As architects, we're licensed in the design of and the production of documents that help contractors build their things. So for example, we'll draw pages and pages of floor plans and elevations, and then we hand those over to a separate industry of contractors who are the professionals who actually manage the process of construction. And so you have architects who do all the drawings and the documents and the final goal of what you want done. And then you have contractors who manage the construction process. And there's a little overlap in those industries. And right there in the sweet spot is where my guest today works. So I'm excited to talk to a very underappreciated part of the profession and certainly doesn't get as much publicity as it deserves. Construction Administrator Ray Stubblefield. Ray, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Josh. Appreciate it.
So I've been starting every video with the same question. If you go back to your high school days, what did you think your career would be?
Oh, well, wow, that's a good question. Back in my high school days, when I started thinking about architecture as a career, I really started thinking about planning and designing. And actually, like you were just talking about, I thought I would be constructing homes because I was really interested in doing homes. So kind of I had my eye on that like design build aspect of architecture.
Right. And to be clear, that does exist in our industry. It's just a much smaller niche than I think most people realize, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So when everybody thinks of architect, they think turtlenecks, circle-rimmed glasses, high designers who talk in accents and talk about the big picture, the facade, you know, the classic designer stereotype. But your outfit looks a little different. You're more of a boots and jeans kind of guy, I imagine. So why don't you tell me where your role fits into the process?
Yeah, I guess I would be more of the meat and potatoes type of guy in the architectural role. And that's basically what the CA role entails is basically you are the architect during the construction phase of the project. So you act as the facilitator and kind of the mediator between all of the various stakeholders. You have engineering consultants that you're working with the contractor, you're working with suppliers, and you're also having to report back to the owner to make sure that the project is moving on schedule, that it's within budget, and that we're meeting, you know, the design intentions of the drawings. So you're kind of acting as this middleman, and you have all these different mouths to feed and all these different people to please, you know, to keep everyone on the same page.
Okay. Okay. So what is it that you're doing during the process when technically the responsibility is on the contractor, right? They're the one who's actually doing the building of the thing. So what do they need you for?
Absolutely. So they need me to basically oversee and manage the architectural design portion of the project,
Okay.
which entails, looking through the drawings, making sure that our design intentions are made. If there's any questions that the contractor may have, then we, do our best to generate those answers. We might have to make document changes during the project, during the time of construction phase, and we just go through various tasks and coordination and communication efforts to make sure that the contractor is getting the information that he needs in order to build, the project right.
Okay, so I'm seeing this as part translator for the contractor because architects, we work with these drawings day in, day out. We think they're completely clear as day, but for somebody coming in with a different training, maybe that's not always the case.
Right, right. For someone that's coming in, the CA role is one of those things that it takes years of experience to really grasp and get an understanding of, because you're dealing with a lot of detail work, you're dealing with a lot of connections and how things are actually built. And so you're talking about dealing with structural systems, framing systems, foundations. How do we waterproof that? All of this different technical stuff. How's the building insulated? And so we act as that bridge to make sure that our details are designed, based on typical standards, typical industry standards, so that the contractor can go out there and design to actually install what we design.
Interesting. So there's a quality control aspect of it too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Quality control and quality assurance is a big part of it. I guess you got to be a bit of an I dotter and a T crosser. You got to be a little bit nitpicky when it comes to things, because as an architect, one of our code of ethics is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And so that's very important in what we do, and it's very, very important when acting in the CA role.
Absolutely. And to be clear, you are a licensed architect. You went to the same design school as any designer, and you then have to translate that into the world of construction. Yeah?
Absolutely, yes. I went to a design school, Kansas State University, and got my architecture degree, became a licensed architect and everything. And I guess for me, I've always been interested in design. I got a good eye for design, I guess, as most designers feel that they do. But I've always been one who was interested in how things got built, how their attachments are made, and how things really go together. And so that's what always intrigued me. And I think that's kind of why I've settled into the CA role. So yes, I am a licensed architect, and that's very important because there's a lot of technical information that you need to know in order to do this job, which is fun.
Yeah, that's very true. Some of the hardest parts of the architecture exams are the technical information that you have to be ready to apply at any given moment. I can speak from that one
Absolutely.
myself. So that's very interesting. You kind of found your neat niche in the architecture industry because you found yourself more technically inclined. Is that the typical way we find CAs in the profession? Or is there another level of interest or skill that somebody would want to cultivate if they want to pursue that career?
I think for me, it became, like I said, I always had an interest in design build. So I think it's whatever you're trying to fulfill and, in your career and your life. I think we all have different areas on the inside of us that gives us fulfillment. And for me, seeing the actual drawings become alive, is just awesome to me. And you get out there on the site and you're building these relationships with the contractors, with the engineers and suppliers and everything, and it just really comes together. You start developing this consensus.
So what's your favorite job you've helped build or helped work with?
Well, I'm currently assisting on a job down in downtown Atlanta, 760 Ralph McGill Boulevard. That's been a favorite. That's a commercial mixed-use project.
Oh, big time.
It's over. Yeah, so it's a very this is probably the largest project I've actually worked on. I would say that a previous project that I've worked on was in a former life, or when I was actually working in a parking consulting firm. and learning structural engineering for a parking garage. And we did this project in Charlotte, North Carolina, the Novant Healthcare Center. And so that was a favorite. That was a very good project as well.
Interesting. Okay. So if I'm interested in a career like yours, do I need to go through architecture school to do it? Do I need to be an architect to help with the construction administration process?
I would say that it would help, but I think if you're just following the path of any of those STEM type careers, whether it's architecture, engineering, construction management, construction science, any of those type of related fields in STEM, you can be a CA. I mean, if you can read a set of construction documents and you know how things should go together, you're more than capable of fulfilling this role.
Okay. So then you've been doing this for a few years now, and you've got a good library of knowledge about the architecture profession. If you're looking to maybe hire a CA, or if you're looking for somebody that you'd like to work with, what's a characteristic that you've discovered makes for a good construction administrator?
So good construction administrator is one that most importantly takes initiative. Number two, takes ownership of the project. The project has to really become your own. You have to look at it from the standpoint, if this is my building where I'm living at, how would I want, this to be coordinated? How would I communicate, my ideals to the rest of the design team or to the contractor? So you really got to become invested in the project. I would also say being a good communicator is very important in everything that we do, no matter what profession you decide to go in. And then most importantly, a few other things, doing quality work and, having a positive attitude, because stuff happens.
Yeah.
and there's no such thing as a perfect set of documents, as a perfect set of drawings. So, being able to adapt and being able to be flexible is extremely important as well.
I don't know what you're talking about. My documents are always perfect. For those of us in the industry who are watching this, everybody's laughing right now. Trust me. But that does bring us to the end of our time today. If anybody has a question, we might be able to squeeze one in. So submit those now. But I'm going to go through the end of this, let everybody know how we're doing for the rest of this. Can anybody believe this is our 10th episode of this series? This is amazing. It's great to have you on for our 10th episode, Ray. When I pitched this back in the day, it was a one-day concept with at most 8 professionals trying to do it all at once, and I am just thrilled with how this has turned out. And we're still going. Like, this is not the end. We're loving this process, and we love connecting with people. So thanks, everyone. Don't forget to follow this account for another interview next week. Can't tell you who it is yet, but we're typically announcing them Thursday or Friday on our LinkedIn page, so you can look for that there. Maybe construction administration seemed like a good fit for you. You'd like to learn more about the people Ray works with and how their work relates to the construction industry and the design industry and the overlap therein. Or maybe you're still looking for a good fit. Either way, we'll be back here next Tuesday. Also remember, this video will go live on our story here in a few minutes, and you can share that with teachers or friends that you think need to know about us. If you have follow-up questions, you can comment on the video and we'll do our best to get back to you. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe. And thanks again, Ray.
All right. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it.